Hey guys, tonight we're doing something a little different. Picture this. You're standing outside under a sky that doesn't quite move. The air feels oddly still. Too still, like the quiet before a sneeze. And then for just 1 second, Earth stops spinning. Everything you know. Gravity, sunrise, tides. That faint buzz of the fridge humming in the kitchen. Goes absolutely sideways. Literally. You probably won't survive this. But hey, no pressure. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd also love it if you commented with your location and what time it is where you are. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're walking home. Maybe it's from work. Or maybe from a strangely intense board game night. You hear a low hum. Not the usual traffic or distant dogs. No, it's deep cosmic. Your feet falter. And then, mid-step, the planet does something no planet has done in your lifetime. It stops spinning. No warning, no fireworks, just a pause. A hiccup in Earth's eternal pirouette. For reference, you're standing on a globe that spins at about 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. You've been riding that velocity your entire life. Even if you live closer to the poles, say, in a charming Canadian village where moose roam free, you're still spinning, just a little more modestly. But now zero, nada, complete stillness. At first, nothing happens. For one fraction of a second, the laws of physics are politely gathering themselves, probably brushing off their jackets and saying, "Wait, did the intern press the red button?" Then it hits you. Not metaphorically, not emotionally. Literally hits you. Your stomach lurches, but it doesn't feel like a roller coaster drop. It's more like your insides remembered the planet was moving and got deeply offended that it stopped. A tree beside you creaks, not from wind, just tension. The bark seems confused. You look up, and for the first time in your life, the stars don't feel like background decorations. They feel judgmental. They're watching, like ancient moviegoers waiting to see if the show's going to be any good. In history, humans were always awed by the sky. The Babylonians tracked planetary movement with such dedication, they'd put modern stargazers to shame, but they never considered this a full planetary pause. Historians still argue whether ancient sky-watching societies could detect even tiny irregularities in celestial motion. But this would have made even the chillest Mesopotamian freak out. Your breath fogs in front of you. Not from cold, just tension. Across the street, a man's newspaper flies out of his hands and hovers oddly before slapping, his face with unearned vengeance. It's like the paper resents everything. You remember reading once that if Earth were to stop spinning gradually, the days would become scorching and the nights icy, like dating someone who only texts back every 3 days. But this isn't gradual. This is a hard stop. You take a step. And that's when gravity throws you a sarcastic wink. Your weight shifts subtly. Not that you start floating, it's not zero gravity, it's just sideways gravity. Like Earth suddenly tilted its head and said, "You sure about those shoes?" Everything around you holds this shared breath. The trees, the cars, even that slightly menacing squirrel you always suspected was planning something. And then as you scan the horizon, you notice the clouds. They're stuck, or at least pretending to be. You know that in the next moment something big is coming. The atmosphere, that lazy blanket of gas we all take for granted, doesn't obey brakes. It's been coasting along with Earth's spin this whole time. And you're stuck here feeling the quietest moment in world history. You start to count seconds, 1, 2, but wait. Wasn't the Earth only supposed to stop for 1 second? Did it already pass? Is this it? Or is the spin just about to restart? And you're standing in the awkward pause between the slap and the sting. In the distance, a bird screeches and veers off course like a driver distracted by a text message. It crashes gently into a recycling bin. You both pretend it meant to do that, and then faintly you hear something. Not a boom, not an explosion, a groan, like the sound of a stadium roof settling in the rain. Except it's not a roof. It's the crust of your entire planet flexing, compressing slightly, wondering maybe if it needs to shift. The air is thick now, heavier, and you wonder what will happen next. Will the stars realign? Will you be flung into space like a lottery ball with bad luck? No, not yet. You're still here, still watching, still waiting. And just like that, the countdown begins. You don't even feel it start, but your body does. Muscles twitch, knees unlock. There's a very sudden, very physical betrayal of inertia. Newton's first law just showed up in steel-toed boots and kicked the door in, because while the earth stopped spinning, you didn't. No one did. Everything that isn't bolted, buried, or absurdly heavy is still moving east at the exact speed it was before, give or take 1,000 miles per hour. So are you. So is your cat, your couch, your toaster, that questionable novelty mug shaped like a llama. You're flung forward, or more accurately, the ground is yanked out from under your momentum. It's not a graceful movie-style flying leap either. No heroic slow motion. You accelerate forward like a sack of confused spaghetti. Your shoes skid first. Your knees forget how knees work. Your arms do a flailing jazz performance they didn't rehearse. And then, wham, you crash through a hedge. Not even your hedge. Someone else's. You'll need to apologize later, if there's a later. Behind you, your house is experiencing its own crisis. Windows shatter. Books fly. That antique vase your aunt gave you, the one you've always secretly disliked, smashed. Physics apparently has taste. Let's be clear. Momentum is not your friend in this scenario. It's the clingy ex of physics. Impossible to shake and arriving at the worst possible time. This is what's called conservation of momentum. And tonight it's being conserved with an almost rude enthusiasm. Earth stops, but you keep going. Everything with mass and motion turns into an accidental projectile. This isn't just you. Around the globe, the same story plays out with heartbreaking symmetry. Trees, buses, skyscrapers, all suddenly trying to pretend they're Olympic long jumpers. Historical footnote. During the 1906 San Francisco earthquake, people reported being thrown across rooms by the tremors. But those were local tectonic disruptions. What you're living through now is planetary scale inertia. This is all of Earth's kinetic energy letting go at once like a drunken conga line collapsing. You grip the lawn, dirt in your mouth, grass in your ears. Somewhere behind you, your phone beeps one last notification before skidding off into oblivion. Probably an alert about a flash sale. Cars, you realize. What about the cars? You turn your head, just enough to witness a traffic jam transformed into a ballet of steel and regret. A Honda Civic sails overhead like it's trying out for Cirque du Soleil. A minivan bounces off a street lamp and keeps going. Physics whispering you got this in its exhaust pipe. Up until this point, gravity and friction had been your loyal bodyguards. But now, for this brief intermission of Earth's movement, they're overwhelmed. They can't cancel momentum. They can only moderate the damage. And oh, the damage. Planes were flying. That's a sentence that shouldn't need follow-up. But unfortunately it does. Planes mid-flight now find themselves in a dogfight with invisible inertia. Some drop, engines thrown off. Others keep surging east. Confused birds of aluminum and despair. Pilots' radio control towers that no longer know where east even is. Historians still argue whether early aviators like the Wright brothers ever fully understood what their fragile flying machines would be up against. But they certainly didn't plan for Earth to just stop. You managed to sit up. Every part of your body is deeply confused. Your hair is emotionally traumatized. And then you notice your neighbor's lawn flamingo has embedded itself beak first into a tree trunk, like a tiny plastic javelin of doom. You laugh. You can't help it. It's either laugh or cry, and right now laughter feels less expensive. Somewhere a garden gnome lies decapitated. You salute him. Your eyes scan the skyline. Well, what's left of it? Not everything is wrecked, but the chaos is obvious. Buildings with east-facing windows are shredded. Those massive glass-walled skyscrapers downtown, not having a good day. Glass and furniture launched like confetti from an angry god. And then, amid the carnage, a curious detail. A paperboy's bicycle untouched, perfectly upright. You stand slowly, knees arguing. Your body now understands momentum in a way physics teachers only dream of explaining. You think of Isaac Newton, the apple guy. Historians debate whether the apple actually bonked him on the head, or if that's just poetic license. But either way, the man knew a thing or two about motion. You bet even he didn't imagine Earth stopping mid-spin, though he probably would have written a sassy footnote about it if he had. Your thoughts wander because distraction is how the brain copes with absurdity. You remember that time you tripped over your own shoelaces and thought, "This must be what flying feels like." You were wrong. Flying feels like this. Every molecule of your being is in subtle revolt. Your blood, your balance, your breakfast, it's all reconfiguring itself for a world where inertia rules the day. Insects lie stunned on the pavement. Not dead, just baffled. A dog walks in circles, then sits, then lies down and whimpers, unsure what offense it committed to deserve this. And then it hits you, the Earth hasn't started spinning again. This was just 1 second. 1 second of stopped spin, and this is only the momentum aftermath. Your eyes narrow. If this is the beginning, what comes next? You don't hear it coming. That's the worst part. First, there's just a twitch in the trees, a slight rustle, like a curious breeze poking its nose out to see what happened. But it's not a breeze. It's the wind. The real wind. The wind that's been hurtling through the upper atmosphere this whole time. Still coasting along at over 1,000 miles per hour. Because just like you, it didn't get the stop the spin memo, and now it wants to reintroduce itself. With force. You look up. The clouds are no longer stuck. They're sprinting. Not floating. Sprinting sideways like they've got rent due yesterday and the landlord's at the door. A sound builds. Low, rolling, almost musical. If musical meant guttural wail of planetary retribution. You've heard hurricanes, maybe. Tornadoes, if you're unlucky. But this is neither. This is atmospheric inertia, trying to rearrange the landscape. The trees bend. Not sway bend. Like they're in yoga class and the instructor's a maniac. You taste dust. It coats your tongue before you even realize you've opened your mouth. People across the globe are experiencing the same sudden betrayal. The air above them continues to move at its original velocity, now outracing the surface beneath. In physics terms, this is wind shear on steroids. In human terms, it's time to duck. You try to move, but the air slams into your chest like a truck, made of cotton candy and bad decisions. The wind doesn't just blow, it shoves. Street signs twist, mailboxes topple. That flamingo from before? Gone, probably in orbit now. The wind carries debris, not leaves, not twigs. Whole fences, ladders, a plastic slide from someone's backyard. For a moment, you think you see a trampoline tumbling by like it's late for a meeting. Fun historical footnote: in 1888, the Great White Hurricane buried the east coast of the U.S. under snowdrifts, 40 feet high. This isn't that. This is a hurricane without rain. No warning, no clouds of doom. Just raw, dry, furious air channeling the energy of 1,000 forgotten leaf blowers. Historians still argue whether early civilizations tracked extreme wind events in oral tradition or symbolic carvings. Some believe Aztec wind gods like Ehecatl were born from ancient storm myths. But this? Ehecatl would have taken one look and said, "Nope, I'm out." You crouch behind what used to be a porch swing. It groans, flexes, then lets go with a theatrical whimper and sails off like it's auditioning for the Wizard of Oz. A sharp whistle cuts through the roar, not from a person, from the wind itself. It screams through alleyways, finds cracks in buildings, and creates eerie harmonics that make you think of ghost flutes. If you had a soundtrack right now, it'd be titled Wind Apocalypse in D minor. Your ears pop. Pressure fluctuations roll over you like ocean waves. And speaking of ocean, somewhere out there, far from your neighborhood, the sea is reacting too. All that inertia has to go somewhere, and the atmosphere is just the appetizer. But we'll get to that. Right now, your skin stings. Dust, grit, microtrash. Everything airborne is now exfoliating your cheeks with the tenderness of a belt sander. Somewhere nearby, you hear a scream. Then silence. Then the unmistakable whoomph of a shed losing an argument with gravity. You press flat to the ground. The soil is oddly warm. The wind howls overhead, like it's mad at the ground for being still. You can smell ozone, metal, mulch, and oddly, cinnamon. Probably someone's candle shop detonated. Sorry, Karen. You remember that physics class you napped through? The one where the teacher talked about frame of reference. At the time it seemed boring. Now you are the frame of reference and everything else is the chaos. A memory flashes watching news footage of Jupiter's storms. The great red spots swirling for centuries. You always thought Earth was more civilized. Turns out Earth was just busy spinning. Now that it's paused, nature's less gentle blue marble and more angry spinning top with no spin. You roll to your side, gasping. A lawn chair skitters past you with what you could swear is an attitude. The sun somehow is still shining, but the sky feels wrong, jagged. You can see the clouds actually tearing, layers moving at different speeds, like a Photoshop file with too many layers sliding out of sync. This isn't just weather. This is physics staging a protest march through your hometown. The wind begins to slow, not stop, just ease. It's like a giant took a deep breath, screamed at you for a while, and is now considering a snack. You take a moment to breathe. Then you hear it. The low dragging sound of water. You know without being told what comes next. Because while the air has had its fun, the oceans are just getting started. You turn your head and at first you don't quite understand what you're seeing. The horizon looks strange, bulging somehow, as if someone's slowly lifting the edge of the world with a spatula. Except it's not land that's rising. It's water. A thick, massive wall of it, and it's moving toward you. Your brain, in its sleepy little panic mode, tries to make a comparison. Maybe it's like watching a really bad CGI tsunami in a mid-budget disaster movie. But this isn't CGI, this is real. And it's moving way too fast to be polite. You've heard of rogue waves before. Freaks of nature. Sailors whispering about them in bars. But those are tiny compared to this, mere puddles on a trampoline. What's coming toward you now is the atmosphere's cousin. And it's furious that the air got to have fun first. Because here's the thing. Oceans don't like surprises. When the Earth stops spinning, the oceans don't freeze. They just keep going. All that water, still moving. All that momentum, still in motion. And now, with the crust no longer spinning beneath it, the sea is suddenly very interested in inland real estate. Somewhere, some poor coastal town is getting absolutely redecorated. And not just one, all of them. The Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian, all the oceans are now racing sideways in a global game of bumper cars. The equatorial bulge, that thick band of ocean fattened by spin, collapses inward. Sea levels drop in some places, rise dramatically in others. It's like Earth just picked up a giant water balloon and gave it a slap. Historians still argue whether the legend of the Great Flood found in various cultures, Mesopotamian, biblical, even early Chinese mythology, came from isolated tsunami events or deeper, prehistorical ocean surges. But if this event had occurred in their time, no arguments, just wet sandals and existential horror. You scramble uphill, slipping on damp grass and knocking over a wheelbarrow that really never did anything to deserve this. Your shoes squish, your lungs burn, but you keep going. And then with an earth-shaking rumble, the water hits. You're far enough inland to avoid the worst, just enough elevation, just enough luck. But you can feel the impact in your bones. It's like the earth coughs. Trees shudder, power lines snap. Somewhere a goat screams, probably for unrelated reasons. A thick roaring sound, like Niagara Falls after a triple espresso, fills the valley. The wave doesn't just crash, it occupies. It pours through streets, topples fences, fills basements, relocates kayaks. Fish are being introduced to new ecosystems and, in some cases, dining room furniture. You spot a refrigerator floating by, door flapping gently like it's waving goodbye to its old life. The salt spray hits your face, sharp and briny. It's like the ocean is reminding you who's boss. You want to shout, okay, I get it. But your voice would be stolen by the roar. There's something humbling about watching an entire body of water say, my turn. You reach the top of the hill, turn back. The street below you? Gone. It's become a river. A new river. Not even on the map yet. You could name it after yourself. The U River. Bold, moody, slightly sarcastic. You glance up. The clouds are still wheeling overhead in layers, like the world is stacked in transparent pancakes. You wonder if satellites are still up there, spinning, watching, completely useless now. Water surges into canyons and subway tunnels. The underground world becomes underwater. Rats and subway artists evacuate in the same direction. You think of Venice, of Bangladesh, of tiny island nations that now probably don't exist anymore. Whole cultures gone in a single moody ocean shrug, and yet not everything is chaos. Inland rivers reverse. Lakes swell. Some drought-stricken places get their first rainfall in years, only to realize it's not rain, it's a tsunami with trust issues. You remember that fringe theory you once read? That the Sahara was once a lush, green landscape. Maybe it wasn't climate that changed it. Maybe, just maybe, some ancient cosmic hiccup like this happened before. Historians dismiss it, but fringe theorists still whisper. You sit now, exhausted, soaked. The wind has died. The water's still rising, but slower. A canoe bumps gently into a tree beside you. Empty. As if inviting you to take a paddle. You decline, politely. Somewhere nearby, frogs begin to croak. Nature is already adjusting. Which is unfair, frankly. You haven't even finished panicking and nature's moving on like it's just Tuesday. You glance at your watch, which, by the way, is totally confused. Seconds seem normal. But deep inside the system, the syncing is gone. The GPS signals are trash. The satellites up there depended on a spinning Earth. Now they're guessing. And not well. But that's not your problem. Not right now. Right now, your problem is wet socks and the growing suspicion that the crust of the Earth is also about to start making things personal. You wiggle your toes inside your shoes. Bad idea, they're soaked. They squish with the emotional energy of betrayal, warm, damp, and full of regret. But there's no time to complain. The ground beneath you just made a noise. Not a loud one. More like a groan. The kind of deep, resonant sound you imagine tectonic plates make when they're annoyed but trying to keep it together. You freeze, which, all things considered, is a common reaction when you realize the solid ground isn't quite as solid as advertised. Another sound. A creak like a rusty seesaw, then a sharp crack that seems to echo from underground. You look down and see a tiny fissure opening in the hillside, like a baby earthquake trying to make its big break. This isn't about wind anymore, or water. This is about land, because while Earth's spin has only stopped for a second, that second wasn't just about surface-level chaos. The crust, the part we live on, build on, garden on, is just a thin skin floating on layers of molten rock, and without the gyroscopic balance of rotation, that crust is feeling awkward. It's shifting. Tectonic plates have always been on the move. Continental drift is why you can fit Africa and South America together, like puzzle pieces. But that's slow, gentle geological poetry. What's happening now is more like the Earth sneezing mid-surgery. Historians still argue whether massive earthquakes in antiquity, like the one that supposedly destroyed Helike, the lost city of ancient Greece, were triggered by natural plate activity or cosmic anomalies. Right now you're starting to side with Team Cosmic Anomaly. Another rumble.
Stronger this time.
In the distance you hear what sounds like a building sighing and collapsing. Dust rises like flour in a dropped kitchen. The crust isn't breaking evenly. It's buckling, redistributing pressure, trying to remember its original factory settings. And there's a smell. Not sulfur, not yet. But something metallic, warm and earthy. Like the breath of a volcano holding its tongue. You watch the asphalt ripple. The actual street below warps like a vinyl record left in the sun. It doesn't shatter, it waves. And then it does shatter. A telephone pole keels over slowly, wires snapping with the sound of popcorn from the underworld. You backpedal. Heart racing, shoes still squishing. It's a weird sound to accompany existential fear. Then comes the tilt. It starts subtle. Your balance sways as the slope beneath your feet redefines down. The hill you climbed is now shifting. Earthquakes usually involve one tectonic plate nudging under another. But this isn't just one fault line grumbling. This is a global conversation, and nobody's listening politely. Plate boundaries grind, mountains fidget. Old fault lines that haven't twitched in centuries suddenly remember how to salsa. A tree splits in half, not from wind, from tension. Its trunk, pulled apart from the base, snaps like brittle celery. A squirrel launches itself out of the top half mid-break, lands on a rock, and gives you a look that says absolutely not. You nod, fair. You feel the vibrations in your sternum now. A low-frequency hum like a distant cello being sawn in half. Your teeth ache. Your joints feel like they've become tiny tuning forks. The sky hasn't changed. It's still cloud-streaked and pale, which almost makes it worse. This kind of geologic drama deserves a thunderstorm or two. Instead, you get sunny skies and collapsing infrastructure. You wonder if caves are safe. Then you remember caves are inside the earth. And the earth is currently doing jazz improvisation. A boulder, maybe the size of a minivan, definitely the weight of several life regrets, tumbles past, not rolling so much as plowing. It doesn't bounce. It commits. And somewhere in the back of your mind, the thought flickers. Will volcanoes get jealous? Historically, seismic shifts often trigger volcanic activity. Like in 1815, when Mount Tambora erupted in Indonesia, it caused the year without a summer. Crops failed. Snow fell in July in New England. People wore coats in June. It was an ash-fueled atmospheric rebellion. You wonder if Earth's crust is freaking out now. What happens when the magma below gets wind of the drama? Still, you're oddly calm. Not because it's not terrifying, but because there's a strange serenity in realizing you've passed the point of control. It's like watching Jenga topple and knowing your turn didn't cause it. You just get to enjoy the slow-motion collapse. You breathe deep. The air smells faintly of granite dust. Birds don't return, not yet. Even nature's winged optimists are waiting for the all-clear. And then amid the distant cracking, groaning, rumbling, you feel a lull. The shifting slows. Not because the crust is done, no, not by a long shot. But it's like the earth is pausing between adjustments. Like a chiropractor cracking their knuckles before the next move. You sit cautiously, your knees creak in protest. Jealous of the tectonic plates getting all the attention, the land is resettling, just for now. And somewhere deep below you, the planet's molten heart is quietly spinning, still moving independently, still turning like nothing happened. It's smug. You can feel it. Because while the surface panics, the inner core is chilling in the center of the earth like it's hosting a spa day. You sit there, perched on a trembling hillside, while everything on the surface plays musical chairs with the laws of physics. But beneath you, far beneath you, there's something even stranger going on. The inner core. You probably haven't thought about it much. Most people don't, it's just there, buried 3,000 kilometers below your socks. A giant ball of solid iron, roughly the size of the moon, spinning inside a sea of molten metal like some eldritch planetary yoke. And guess what? It didn't stop spinning. That's right. While the crust slammed on the brakes and the oceans threw tantrums and the wind went full blender, Earth's solid inner core kept rotating, like it had somewhere to be. Oblivious, unbothered, almost smug. You try to picture it, this shimmering, incandescent sphere, just doing its thing deep inside a planet that's collectively losing its mind. Kind of like that one chill friend who stays calm during group projects, while everyone else is taping things together with panic and dry erase markers. Scientists think the inner core rotates at a different rate than the rest of the planet, maybe even slightly faster. Historians still argue whether ancient Chinese astronomers noticed the effects of deep Earth dynamics in celestial anomalies. But modern seismology backs it up. The core does its own thing. You wonder if it even noticed the pause. Probably not. Down there, the conditions are mind-melting. Temperatures hit around 5400 degrees, about the same as the surface of the sun. And pressure? Try 3.5 million times the air pressure you're currently gasping through. It's so intense that iron, which should be molten at that heat, is actually solid. Solid, spinning, silent, and still going. The layers around it, the liquid outer core and the rocky mantle, reacted to the surface deceleration, of course. You imagine the outer core sloshing like a lava lamp during an earthquake. But the inner core? It just hums, spinning slowly on its own axis like a goth ballerina in a metal tutu. You shift slightly, feeling the after rumbles fade into a background tremor. The earth beneath you has calmed, but your mind sinks downward. It's weird to think about the stuff under your feet. We treat the ground like an endpoint, but really, it's the beginning of a whole layered chaos cake. Crust, mantle, outer core, inner core. 4 layers of planet lasagna. And the flavor down there? Metallic with notes of extreme pressure and casual doom. You wonder if the core ever influences life above. Scientists debate whether fluctuations in its spin contribute to magnetic field shifts, plate motion, or even long-term climate changes. No one knows for sure. It's hard to ask when your subject is literally inaccessible. But now, with the Earth having paused, even for just 1 second, that neatly stacked, layered system has been rattled. Not broken, just confused. You imagine the boundary between the solid inner core and the molten outer core. That liminal, blurry border where iron phases in and out of states like it can't make up its mind. What happens when friction builds there? When 2 immense rotating masses suddenly disagree? Turbulence. It's like rubbing your hands together fast, but with metal heat and the energy of 1,000 fusion reactors. The friction might cause eddies, heat bursts, or micro-earthquakes that ripple up through the mantle. Maybe that's why your bones have been vibrating, like tuning forks since you stood up. You feel it now, an odd pulsing, not from above but from within, like the planet is remembering itself in layers. And here's where things get weird. That spinning inner core is a big reason Earth even has a magnetic field. It's like a dynamo, generating protective magnetic lines that keep cosmic radiation from turning us all into overcooked marshmallows. So if that core keeps spinning while the rest of the planet pauses, even for a second, does the magnetic field hiccup? Spoiler, yeah. Above you, you can't see it. But Earth's magnetic field is quivering like a tuning fork in an earthquake. It's been nudged out of alignment. Not destroyed, but distorted. The solar wind is still pouring in from the sun, and now Earth's shield isn't quite in the right position to deflect it. You shiver. Not from cold, from radiation you don't feel. Somewhere far above, auroras bloom over latitudes that haven't seen them in centuries. Not just Canada and Scandinavia. No, we're talking Cairo, Bangkok, maybe even the equator getting an uninvited neon sky rave. People stare up in awe, then confusion, then worry, because pretty lights are less charming. When your phone melts and birds fall out of the sky, still the core spins. It doesn't care about your texts. It doesn't care about GPS. It just turns patient, relentless, unaware that its consistency is the only thing standing between life and an irradiated wasteland. You wonder if anyone's down there. Not literally, no one's dug more than 12 kilometers into the crust, but maybe in some alternate dimension, a civilization of lava people is watching this whole mess from the outer core's perspective and saying, "There they go again." You chuckle. It's a tired, dusty sound. Above you, the sky has darkened, but not from sunset. Just cloud debris. The air tastes like iron filings and ozone. Still, you feel marginally safer now that the crust has stabilized, but the knowledge stays with you. Beneath your feet. Inside this confused, wind-blown, partially drowned planet, a core keeps spinning. A calm, relentless heart, dragging molten fire behind it like a cosmic wedding veil. It didn't stop, and it won't stop. Not for you, not for anyone. You lean back, your head resting against a rock that may or may not have been part of someone's patio this morning, and you look up. The clouds have thinned a little, just enough to see patches of that moody, tired blue sky peeking through. But there's something strange, something missing. You can't name it at first. Then it hits you. Your compass is broken. Okay, maybe you don't have an actual compass in your pocket, unless you're a very dedicated Boy Scout. But if you did, it would be panicking right now, spinning in circles, pointing southeast, then northwest, then maybe toward that squirrel from earlier. Because Earth's magnetic field, the invisible shield that normally wraps around the planet, like a comforting electromagnetic burrito, is acting very weird. And that's thanks to the chaos down in the outer core. The inner core is still spinning, sure, but the outer core, it's furious. It's molten, and it's swirling with molten metal currents that help generate the magnetosphere, all those loops of magnetic energy that usually keep us protected from the sun's more homicidal outbursts. They're misaligned now. You remember learning that Earth's magnetic field extends thousands of kilometers into space, deflecting solar particles so they don't roast us alive. It's the reason we have an atmosphere. It's the reason life hasn't been microwaved off the face of the planet. It's the reason you can take selfies without turning into ultraviolet jerky. And now it's fluttering, twitching like a nervous eyelid. Somewhere the auroras are blooming stronger than ever, painting the skies with ribbons of color. But this time it's not just in Iceland or Alaska. No, people in Kenya are seeing northern lights for the first time. So are tourists in Rio. So are penguins in Antarctica. Which, by the way, is very confusing for the penguins. Historians still argue whether the ancient Norse truly believed auroras were the armor of Valkyries in battle or just atmospheric optical illusions. Either way, they would have absolutely lost their minds. If the whole sky lit up like a rave across the equator, you shift uncomfortably. The rock beneath you vibrates faintly. Could be tectonics. Could be your nerves. Either way, you're hyper-aware of every single force you used to take for granted. Above you, a satellite streaks across the sky. And then another. And another. You realize they're falling. Slowly, elegantly, but definitely falling. Because here's the kicker. Satellites are programmed based on Earth's spin. They rely on stable orbits that assume a rotating planet below. And now that the rotation paused, just for that 1 second, everything is out of sync. Orbits degrade. Calculations fail. The magnetosphere's glitching. And without its steady electromagnetic guidance, satellite systems are just very expensive space junk. You see a blinking light overhead, a slow arc across the sky. Then it blinks out. You wonder if that was someone's weather satellite, or a defense satellite, or maybe one of those ones that's supposed to beam internet into rural places and now just beams regret. And it's not just space tech affected. Down here on the crispy shifting ground, strange things are happening to electronics. Some people report static shocks from doorknobs that practically punch them. Others find their phones rebooting constantly, unable to find any signal, any GPS, any comfort. You try to turn yours on. The screen flickers. Then it shows the time, 4:01 a.m., then 12 cow. Then the Apple logo winks out like it's given up. You pocket it again. It's fine. You weren't that attached. Magnetic fields aren't just about navigation. They affect everything from migratory patterns to power grids. And speaking of those, power is spotty. Cities that still have electricity are watching. Their transformers spark like overworked toasters. In some places, substations are literally catching fire from electromagnetic interference. You picture a utility worker somewhere, standing next to a giant coil of copper wire, sighing deeply into their coffee. They didn't sign up for this. Back in the 1850s, there was an event called the Carrington Event, a massive solar storm that fried telegraph lines and gave Victorian-era scientists a brief taste of what real electromagnetic mayhem feels like. Historians still argue whether a similar event today would simply inconvenience us or send us back to the analog age overnight. You're now strongly leaning toward the latter. You pluck a paperclip from the ground. Don't ask where it came from and hold it up. It trembles in your fingers ever so slightly. Not enough to jump, but enough to remind you that the invisible stuff matters. You can't see magnetism, can't taste it, but you can sure feel it when it breaks. A low-frequency hum begins to vibrate through your feet again. Not seismic, not tectonic. It's more like the Earth's nervous system is sparking. Flashes of aurora light ripple faintly overhead, barely visible through the daylight haze. Reds, greens, a strange violet that makes your skin goosebump in languages you don't even speak. You realize that while everything on the surface is chaotic, there's a deeper problem simmering beneath. Without the stable rotation of the Earth, the geodynamo that generates the magnetic field is glitching, just slightly, just enough to make Earth vulnerable to things we usually never think about. Cosmic rays, solar flares, that background radiation cocktail we live with daily, which the magnetosphere normally swats away like a bouncer at a nightclub. Now the bouncer's on break, maybe forever. You lie back and exhale. There's nothing left to do at the moment but wait and wonder, is this the new normal? Or will Earth find a way to reboot? You sit up slowly, unsure if gravity still wants to cooperate or if it's just humoring you for now. The world around you has gone eerily quiet again, but not peacefully quiet. It's the kind of silence that follows a crash, where even the birds are like, nope, not getting involved. You squint at your watch. Still dead. You dig your phone out again. Black screen. Nothing. Time, it seems, has decided to stop being helpful. But here's the twist. Time hasn't stopped. It's just confused. See, the Earth's rotation is what gives us a 24-hour day. It's not perfect. It actually takes 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4 seconds for one full spin. But we round it off because we're lazy and also bad at fractions. But now, Earth paused for 1 second. Just a single beat, and yet that pause was enough to scramble the internal logic of our whole planetary timekeeping system. Clock still ticks, sure. Your kitchen microwave still flashes. 12 is that you like it always has. But everything that depends on atomic synchronization, GPS satellite clocks, precise scientific instruments is slightly off. Very slightly. But that's the problem. The whole world runs on very slightly. GPS systems, for instance, require nanosecond-level precision. Satellites synchronize with atomic clocks on Earth. Those clocks use the vibration of cesium atoms. Yes, but they also calibrate themselves against universal time, which is based on Earth's rotation. And now, they're freaking out. A GPS ping that was supposed to land in Kansas ends up somewhere in Nebraska. Airplanes are off by a few dozen feet, which might not sound like much, until you realize most of them are traveling at 500 miles per hour and like to land on the runway, not near it. Historians still argue whether ancient navigation methods, sextants, star charts, and time-based longitude calculations were more resilient than today's GPS. Honestly, in this moment you kind of miss sundials. Even in modern systems, leap seconds are added occasionally to account for Earth's rotation slowing down. The last one was in 2016. It made headlines for about 6 hours and then everyone forgot. But this isn't a leap second. This is a lurch second. It's not just time that's confused. Orientation is messed up too. Air traffic. Control systems are trying to recalculate in real time with data that's fundamentally outdated by 1 second of paused rotation, which sounds small until you consider that at the equator, 1 second of spin equals 460 meters of movement. That's roughly 5 football fields, or a really long line for brunch. Planes circle the skies unsure whether their coordinates are still valid. A few simply abort and land wherever looks vaguely flat. Airports scramble to reorient their systems, only to realize their computer models have no idea what to do with a non-spinning Earth. And it's not just aviation. High-frequency trading platforms on Wall Street, those hyper-fast computer systems that buy and sell stocks in microseconds, are having what financial analysts might call a full-body tantrum. With timestamps off by even a hair, trades are executing in the wrong order, wrong price, wrong dimension of sanity. Somewhere, A hedge fund manager is curled up under their standing desk whispering, "Buy low, sell never." But this goes deeper. Power grids rely on time to balance load cycles. Your local utility company needs to know when peak demand is coming, usually around dinner, when everyone decides to microwave sad leftovers and turn on Netflix. That timing? Gone. The smart grid just became slightly dumb. And you're trying to count seconds manually now. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Except now you don't trust Mississippi. That state has done nothing to deserve your mistrust, but it's too late. The counting feels off. You check the sun. It's not where it's supposed to be. That's not just paranoia. It really is slightly off thanks to the brief pause. The Earth's position relative to the sun has changed by a sliver. It shouldn't matter. But if you're a solar panel technician, astronomer, or superstitious farmer, it matters a lot. Time is no longer the neat rectangular grid you once imagined. It's a slightly warped accordion of seconds and uncertainties. Back in the 1970s, a physicist named Richard Feynman once joked that time is what keeps everything from happening at once. You're now starting to think he was being terrifyingly literal. You wonder how long it'll take for the systems to recalibrate. You picture engineers sweating over servers, astronomers adjusting software, conspiracy theorists having the time of their lives.
See? They'll say, "Told you the Earth's fake."
Historians may one day look back and mark this moment as the second great desynchronization, or they might just call it that time the internet got real weird. Your neighbor walks past you dazed, holding a clock radio with the cord trailing behind. It beeps every time he steps. You nod at each other like veterans of a silent war. He doesn't speak. Why would he? There's nothing left to say when the very concept of now no longer has a unanimous vote. You sit quietly again, listening to the wind try to remember how to behave. The sun edges a little farther west, slowly, hesitantly, like it's unsure what kind of day this is supposed to be. And somewhere a satellite ticks forward by 1 second, but you're still behind. You hear buzzing, not electrical buzzing, not the confused hum of power lines trying to remember their job. No, this is natural, organic, alive. You look up and see a bee, just one, circling in tight spirals like it's trying to debug its internal GPS. Another joins, then 2 more. They're moving strangely, not in that smooth, purposeful way bees normally do, but in a jittery, confused pattern, like they're being piloted by toddlers wearing beekeeper suits. And then it clicks. It's not just people, not just planes, not just clocks that are disoriented. The animals are panicking too, because while you rely on schedules and calendars, birds and bugs rely on the Earth itself. The sun, the stars, the magnetic field, and the rotation, to know where to go, when to move, and how not to fly directly into your neighbor's chimney. The pause in Earth's spin didn't just fling furniture around, it messed up instincts thousands of years in the making. You see a flock of birds overhead. Or more accurately, you see what should be a flock of birds. But they're flying in random loops, breaking formation like a marching band. That's just been told. The sheet music was printed upside down. One dives, one climbs, one tries to land on a power line that's not where it remembers. Back in the 1960s, scientists discovered that some migratory birds can sense Earth's magnetic field through a protein in their eyes called cryptochrome. Basically, birds see magnetic north the way you see exit signs. Except now, the exit signs are flashing every color of the rainbow and spinning like slot machines. Historians still argue whether ancient Egyptians really noticed strange bird patterns before eclipses or quakes. Some hieroglyphs seem to suggest it, but others just look like birds standing dramatically on plinths. Either way, if they were watching now, they'd think the sky was having a breakdown. You hear a thump. You turn and find a confused pigeon sitting in your overturned recycling bin, looking genuinely offended. Its feathers are fluffed out. Its tiny chest is heaving. You imagine it saying, "I took a left at the sun and now I'm in the upside down." Not far away, a group of ants has decided to abandon whatever task they were doing. Their trail breaks zigzags, then reforms in a completely different direction that seems to lead straight into a tree trunk. They hesitate, then all change direction again like tiny, frustrated commuters. You lie down in the grass, bees buzz overhead in the shape of a nervous semicolon. Your memory drifts to that one middle school science fair where someone, maybe even you, claimed that cows always stand north-south. No one cared. But now you wonder, if cows use the magnetic field to line up, what are they doing now? Somewhere in a pasture far away, there's a herd of cows standing in a spiral formation, mooing softly like they've joined a cult. You think about whales. Their migrations depend on geomagnetic lines and sonar. Bouncing through the Earth's crust, two systems currently having identity crises. Somewhere in the ocean, entire pods are turning around mid-swim, confused, bumping into each other, probably muttering, "Doris, you said the trench was left at Fiji, not through it." And what about bugs? Oh, the bugs. Beetles, butterflies, even moths. So many of them rely on subtle environmental cues, including the rotation of the Earth, to navigate. Without that spin, their orientation is like trying to read a map in a hall of mirrors. Upside down in Latin, a moth lands on your leg. It doesn't even flutter away when you move. Just sits there, contemplating, maybe about life, maybe about how the moon just blinked. You think of salmon, those freshwater fish with a freakish talent for returning to their exact birthplace to spawn. They use olfactory memory, but also Earth's magnetic signature as a kind of watery GPS. Today, no salmon know where they are. Someone in Oregon is going to find a salmon in their bathtub and wonder what they did to deserve it. Even pets are affected. Cats sit on windowsills with narrowed eyes, tails twitching like they're calculating a new dimension of vengeance. Dogs pace in circles, their ears perked at sounds that no longer arrive where they used to. You remember reading that dogs often align themselves with the Earth's magnetic field when doing their business. The pause might explain why your neighbor's dachshund just did donuts around a bush before giving up completely. All of it, avian flight, bug migration, oceanic movement, is off kilter now. That delicate connection between instinct and environment has frayed, and the result is chaos. And it's oddly quiet. Not the absence of noise, exactly. Just the absence of patterned noise. Everything is out of sync. No rhythm, no flow. Just mismatched chirp, squeaks, and flutters. Even crickets are confused. Their usual nighttime symphony now sounds like a band warming up in the wrong key. You take a deep breath, then immediately regret it. A bug flies directly into your mouth. You cough. And the bug presumably finds a new life inside your esophagus. This day just keeps giving. You spit into the grass. Somewhere, a raccoon pauses mid-forage and gives you a thumbs up. Metaphorically. Above you, a falcon dives and pulls up at the last moment, wings flaring. It lands on a tree, blinking furiously, like it doesn't quite trust the branches. You both sit in silence for a long while, just trying to figure out where north went. The falcon blinks once more, then takes off with a frustrated squawk, its wings slicing through the distorted air as it vanishes into a sky that looks off. You tilt your head upward, rubbing the sore spot on your neck where all the tension of the day, or let's be honest, the universe has gathered. You squint through the clouds and try to find it. The moon. And there it is. But something's wrong. It's not where it should be. At first glance, it's still a pale white circle in the sky. The same familiar face that's followed humanity through campfire stories, ancient rituals, and badly written poetry. But tonight it's not gazing down with gentle indifference. It's staring hard, slightly askew, a half second behind reality. Because when the Earth stopped spinning for just that 1 second, the relationship between Earth and Moon, an ancient cosmic dance choreographed over billions of years, hiccuped. The Moon orbits the Earth thanks to gravity, sure, but also because of the centrifugal force caused by Earth's rotation. The two forces balance each other like a pair of tightrope, walkers leaning away just enough to avoid collapse. But when Earth paused, the rhythm was thrown off, ever so slightly. And now, like a confused dance partner, the moon's momentum is trying to compensate. That's why it's not quite where you expect it to be. It's drifting along the right path, yes, but wobbling slightly. Lagging, you can almost imagine. It's squinting down and whispering, "Are you okay down there?" You wave just in case it's sentient. Tides are the obvious issue here. We all know the moon controls them, dragging oceans back and forth like a cosmic yo-yo. When the spin stopped, Earth's rotation stopped assisting that gentle tug. And without that motion, the moon yanked harder, not maliciously, just out of habit. And the water answered. Remember those ocean surges earlier? That was just the beginning. Tidal systems depend on regular rotation to distribute lunar pull evenly. With the Earth motionless, the moon's gravitational tug became lopsided. Water piled on the sublunar point, basically, wherever the moon was directly overhead, and ignored the usual ebb and flow pattern. Floods bloomed in places that should have been dry. Elsewhere, water retreated like a frightened animal. Somewhere, a surfer in California stared in awe at an exposed ocean floor and said the words, "Dude, we should totally walk out there." We never heard from him again. Historians still argue whether ancient Polynesian navigators could predict tidal surges using only the moon and star alignments. They probably would have seen this coming. They also probably would have sacrificed a coconut or two and not gone surfing. But this wasn't just a tide problem. You feel it even now, the stillness. The delay between seeing the moon and feeling its gravitational pull expressed through the world around you. It's like watching a light bulb flicker half a second late when you flip the switch. Even the sky seems to understand something's off. There's no breeze. The air feels thick, pregnant with the moon's presence. You wouldn't be surprised if it started humming. The moon itself is fine, of course, unbothered, still orbiting, still smug, but it's confused by you. You imagine it calling a quick interstellar meeting. Okay, it says. So Earth just stopped for 1 second, and Mars, always dramatic, replies, "Typical Earth." The moon shifts slightly in the sky again, adjusting its orbit with a planetary shrug. This matters more than you'd think, because over time, the moon stabilizes Earth. Its tidal friction slows Earth's spin, gradually, gracefully over millions of years. Without it, Earth might wobble like a rogue Beyblade, tilting its axis wildly and causing climate chaos. But with this sudden spin pause, all bets are off. You lie down again, letting your head rest against the flattened grass. The moon's light touches your face, cold, pale, slightly judgmental. And for a second, just a second, you feel unmoored. The moon has always been your anchor in the sky. Now it looks like it's reconsidering the arrangement. In ancient times, people told stories about it, that it was a god, a mirror, a dead lover, a rabbit pounding rice cakes, a ship of spirits sailing the night sea. But tonight it's just confused. Somewhere, oceanographers are screaming into coffee mugs. Their charts are broken. Tide tables obsolete. Coastal predictions useless. A port authority in Singapore watches. Water levels dance like soda fizzing out of a shaken bottle. A cruise ship captain off the coast of Alaska radios for guidance and gets static. The tide buoys are floating somewhere in Oregon. And back on land, farmers watch irrigation ditches overflow. The rhythm is off, like a drum beat that skipped one thud and left the band scrambling to rejoin the melody. And the moon? It keeps going. Because it can't stop. Not unless something catastrophic intervenes. It's too far, too free. Too bound by Newton's cold and casual laws to care about the chaos 1 second caused below. You close your eyes. The moon glows behind your eyelids. A white disk burned onto your inner screen. It was always there. It's still there. But now it knows you paused. You hear a buzz. No, not bees again. This time it's mechanical, whiny, high-pitched, like an old desktop fan trying to turn itself into a helicopter. You open your eyes. There in the distant sky, something metallic twirls downward, slow, clumsy, off balance. It catches a glint of sunlight and tumbles sideways, flapping once before smashing behind the treetops with a muffled whump. It was a drone, or maybe a weather balloon's payload, or possibly someone's extremely expensive camera. rig trying to pretend it had wings. You sigh. Technology isn't having a good day either, and you already knew that. After the clocks glitched, the GPS threw a tantrum, and the magnetosphere began moonwalking. The next logical step was the machines, specifically the flying ones. Let's start with planes. Dozens of them, no hundreds, were in the air when Earth paused. Most commercial aircraft move at cruising speeds of around 500 to 600 mph, adjusted with consideration for the Earth's rotation underneath them. It's called the Coriolis effect, and it matters a lot more than anyone realizes until the Earth decides to play musical chairs with physics. When the rotation halted even for a second, the sky became a mess. Flight software relies on rotational data, altitude, heading, wind correction, those cute little numbers pilots monitored to avoid becoming very expensive darts, all had a nervous breakdown. You picture a pilot in a cockpit somewhere, staring at screens that just blink. Error. Please do not panic in all caps. Some aircraft landed safely, sort of. Others veered off runways. A few didn't make it at all. You don't dwell on that. Moving lower, helicopters didn't fare much better. The ones mid-hover were abruptly flung in unexpected directions. When the rotational equilibrium shifted, many crash-landed gently. Some didn't. At least one ended up lodged in the side of an office building, its blade still twitching like an insect refusing to accept reality. You rub your temples. You're not even in a major city, and still, you've seen at least 3 flying objects lose their sense of identity today. And then there are the satellites. Oh, the satellites. Low Earth orbit is full of them. Weather, surveillance, navigation, comms, all neatly timed, all perfectly calculated to match Earth's constant spin. Except now it's chaos spaghetti up there. Some satellites were thrown just slightly off course. Others veered into new trajectories entirely, colliding, deorbiting, or becoming unexpectedly useless. That shiny new satellite that was supposed to deliver Wi-Fi to rural villages, currently doing somersaults over Iceland. Historians still argue whether the Cold War space race satellite systems were built with enough fail-safes to handle this kind of disruption. The answer seems to be maybe, followed by a quiet, diplomatic coughing fit. Back on the ground, communication infrastructure is unraveling. Signal towers designed to sync across rotating geolocation points have lost their internal sense of direction. You know those rotating satellite dishes that follow satellites across the sky? Well, now they're looking the wrong way. Literally, some are aimed at Kansas, when they should be pointing at the Pacific. TV stations blink off. Live news segments suddenly cut to test screens. Somewhere, a weather forecaster is screaming at a green screen that's displaying upside down storm clouds. Military tech isn't exempt either. Ballistic systems rely on rotational trajectories. Without Earth's spin, long-range targeting becomes the equivalent of throwing darts on a moving boat with a blindfold. Missiles intended for precision now look like very fast, very expensive fireworks. Thankfully, most of them were grounded or automatically disarmed. Hopefully. You scratch at your arm absently. It's not itchy, just jittery. The world feels glitchy, like a video game that's loading assets out of order. You hear a low hum in the distance, a power transformer struggling to hold its breath. And then your smartwatch beeps. You look down, startled. The screen flashes white, then displays the weather, unknown conditions. Then flickers again, then dies. Fair. You wonder about smart homes, all those cloud-connected fridges, thermostats, and toasters. You picture someone trying to make toast and accidentally launching their garage door into the neighbor's hedge. A little closer to home, traffic lights are out. Cars sit abandoned or wedged into fences. EVs with cloud-dependent controls are now bricks with Bluetooth. You spot a Tesla parked on the lawn across the street, nose down in a flower bed. Its headlights flicker like it's trying to decide whether to apologize or shut down out of embarrassment. You nod at it, then glance upward again. High in the sky, where geosynchronous satellites usually maintain their neat, unbothered posture, there's silence. Empty lanes. No comms. It's like the sky has stopped speaking, and that silence is loud. You imagine the IT crowd right now, The sysadmins and engineers who once ran maintenance, Windows on quiet Tuesday nights. Now they're hunched over terminals in bunkers, mumbling things like, "It was just a second, and we need to roll back the planet." You wonder if anyone's built a simulation for this. If somewhere, someone foresaw this moment and wrote a disaster protocol with a bold heading, "In case Earth stops spinning." And if they did, they probably weren't funded. A soft whir, a drone overhead, this one's still functional, hovers for a moment, capturing footage of the damage below. You wave at it. It doesn't wave back, just pivots, twitches, and zips away toward some news agency or government department trying to gather scraps of data from this strange single second that broke everything. You sit back, shoulders slumping. All the blinking, buzzing, high-tech optimism of the modern world has taken a hit. And the world's most powerful machines? They're just as lost as the pigeons. You're not sure what time it is. It could be morning. It could be dusk. The sky's color palette doesn't seem interested in providing answers. A soft pink haze stretches across the horizon, like someone smeared watercolor over confusion. You sit on a toppled bench once attached to a bus stop, now lying sideways like it gave up on punctuality, and your thoughts drift because everything is broken, and there's a strange freedom in that. You imagine what the ancients would say. If you could pluck a Mayan astronomer from his temple, or a Sumerian priest from his ziggurat, or an Egyptian sky watcher perched beside his golden sundial, and place them right here beside you, they'd probably scream. But then they'd be curious, because these were cultures obsessed with the heavens, the movement of the stars, the rhythm of the sun and moon, the tilt of the earth. Everything was sacred. Everything had a pattern. And today, that pattern hiccuped. You picture a Mayan calendar stone, not the doomsday one from 2012 memes, an actual one. A vast wheel of time carved into rock, symbolizing not just dates but cycles, the motion of the earth through eras, the gods riding on cosmic gears. And if they'd seen this pause, this moment when earth skipped a beat, they'd have declared a new era. A cataclysm, a warning. Historians still argue whether Mesoamerican prophecies truly predicted celestial alignments or were poetic interpretations of natural cycles. But if any of those stargazers had seen the sky stutter today, they would have summoned priests, lit torches, and started inventing new symbols immediately. The stars were everything to them. To the ancient Chinese, eclipses weren't just shadows. They were dragons devouring the sun, and a misaligned constellation? That was no minor inconvenience. That was a mandate of heaven being revoked. You imagine a Han Dynasty emperor looking up at this garbled sky and firing a dozen astrologers just to be safe. In ancient Egypt, the rising of Sirius predicted the Nile's flood, a celestial alarm clock that made the entire agricultural system run on time. But if the sky had shifted, if the sun and stars had lagged just 1 second behind their expected positions, the priesthood would have fasted for days, offered incense, written panicked hymns to Ra, and here you are, eating the last bit of an emergency protein bar and wondering if the moon looks snarkier than usual. But you understand it now why ancient cultures were so obsessed with the heavens, because when the sky breaks, everything breaks. Their temples were built to align with solstices, equinoxes, the slow march of starlight, and if that alignment slipped, it wasn't just architecture, it was faith. It was time. It was a silent agreement between humans and the cosmos, an agreement Earth just violated for one lonely second. You remember reading about the Nebra sky disk once, a bronze plate from Bronze Age Germany inlaid with gold symbols showing the sun, moon, and stars. It's one of the oldest known visual representations of the night sky. Some believe it was used to correct calendars. You imagine its creator thousands of years ago, hammering gold into the shape of Pleiades and thinking, if I just get it right, the world will stay in tune. Today, it would have cracked in half. And then there's Stonehenge. People love to argue about Stonehenge. Was it an observatory? A ritual site? A prehistoric calendar? A really inconvenient IKEA table? No one knows for sure. But it aligned with the sun. Its stones frame solstice light. Its builders tracked the sky with such precision that any wobble, any deviation, would have sent shivers through their community. And today, if the sun rose 1 second late between those stones, they would have chanted, sacrificed, maybe even rejoiced. If they believed it signaled the end of one age and the beginning of another. You stare at your own modern ruins. A street lamp curled like a question mark. A bicycle woven into a chain-link fence. The remains of a billboard that once tried to sell you something about insurance or frozen burritos. Nothing lines up anymore. And in that, you realize something important. Humans have always tried to find meaning in motion. From the earliest cave markings to the most complex algorithms, we crave rhythm. We crave spin, not just of the earth, but of time itself. Forward movement means progress, purpose, continuity. And now, after 1 second of stillness, we feel the absence. A man walks by with a sundial. You don't question it. He's dragging it on a little cart, looking up at the sky and muttering calculations, probably trying to recalibrate, probably wondering if now is still now. You wave. He nods. There's a mutual understanding between time travelers, and as your mind drifts further, you wonder how future historians will tell this story, how they'll explain the secondless day, the pause, the spin. Skip, they'll write books, debate causes, invent documentaries with dramatic violins. But what they won't capture, what they can't, is this strange hollow quiet. The shared glance between people and animals when the sky failed to keep its promise. You pick up a rock and carve a single line into the sidewalk. Just one. Like a new tally mark, a new era. And then you whisper to no one in particular. We start again tomorrow. You stand slowly, your legs remembering how to be legs again. The wind has faded to a whisper, the sky a muted wash of quiet tension, and somewhere inside you a new question starts to form. Could the earth start spinning again? Is this pause permanent, or just a cosmic fluke? Like when your computer freezes for a second, and then pretends nothing happened. While you stare at it with deep, existential suspicion, your eyes scan the horizon. There's movement. People cautiously stepping out of doorways. Animals sniffing the air. The occasional breeze returning like it's asking permission. But there's still no sign that the Earth's spin has resumed. So what would it take? Could Earth reboot? You consider the physics. Our spin, our day-night rhythm, our entire experience of time, it all comes from that gentle rotation. Earth was born spinning. Formed from collapsing clouds of gas and dust billions of years ago, it inherited angular momentum from its creation. And unless something intervenes, like a rogue planetary body, or the universe having a very bad day, it keeps spinning. A sudden stop, that breaks everything. But starting again, that's not so simple. If Earth were to gradually resume its rotation, it would need an external force. Some cosmic hand to give it a little push. Problem is, there's no cosmic hand. No giant space paddle waiting to give us a nudge. In theory, if enough mass shifted internally, say, if the mantle convulsed in some coordinated heave, it might create rotational torque. But that would require planet-wide magma gymnastics. Possible? Maybe? Safe? Definitely not. Volcanoes would wake up. You glance toward the hills. A thin plume of smoke is rising in the distance. Oh no. Because if Earth's internal layers are trying to rebalance, that molten pressure has to escape somewhere. Welcome to the lava chapter. There's a deep, ominous rumble. You feel it in your feet before you hear it. Not an earthquake this time. More like a pot of soup bubbling on a stove too hot for comfort. Then a boom. Low, guttural, far away but not far enough. A new volcano. Just like that. And that's when it hits you. Maybe the Earth is trying to restart its spin. Not because it wants to, but because it needs to. Angular momentum can't just vanish. The energy of our planet's rotation was stored somewhere, redirected. When we paused for that 1 second, we didn't delete momentum, we disrupted it. Now deep inside, pressure is building. The planet's internal layers agitated and out of sync, maybe straining against stillness. You can almost feel the crust resisting, a slow, tectonic effort to remember what it's supposed to be doing. Somewhere, scientists are probably huddled around seismographs, watching minute shifts, thermal pulses, and the gradual reacceleration of Earth's rotation, if such a thing is even happening. Historians still argue whether similar events in prehistory could explain abrupt geological shifts, mass extinctions, sudden temperature drops, wild magnetic flips. If the Earth ever paused before, we'd never know. Not unless the rocks themselves confessed. And rocks are famously tight-lipped. You think about energy, how hard it is to stop it, and even harder to restart it in a controlled way. If the Earth really is rebooting, it's not like flipping a switch. It's more like pushing a freight train uphill with your face. Maybe earthquakes are the gears grinding back into place. Maybe the volcanoes are exhaust vents. You take a few steps forward, watching the ground like it might start spinning under your feet any moment. But it doesn't, not yet. Still, something feels different. A bird flies overhead, just one, but it flies straight. Not looping. Not flailing. It picks a direction and goes. You squint at the clouds. They're moving again, yes, but not wildly. Not roaring across the sky like earlier. This is calmer. Measured. Like the atmosphere itself is relearning the beat. The sun has shifted too. Not visibly, but when you close your eyes, you feel its angle just slightly more right. And maybe that's it. Maybe Earth doesn't need a big cosmic push to restart. Maybe all it needed was to remember what it was doing. You picture the planet like a vinyl record nudged off its groove, then slowly sliding back into the track, wobbling, realigning, spinning again. The tectonic plates beneath your feet still twitch occasionally, but not like before. More like a shiver. A stretch. A body waking up after a long, awkward nap on a couch that was way too small. You smile just a little. It's not over. The chaos is still unfolding. But if the Earth is turning again, even by a hair, that means something fundamental has returned. The day can begin again. The tide can follow its script. The sky can breathe. A little boy runs by chasing a paper airplane. It glides straight, cutting clean through the air. You watch it rise and fall, and in the back of your mind a gentle voice whispers, "Spin, spin, spin." You watch the paper airplane dance through the air before it nosedives into a bush. The boy laughs, grabs it, and runs off like the world isn't slightly off kilter and full of trauma. You admire that about kids. They don't need the planet to spin for life to go on. They'll find a way to turn cartwheels on a cracked sidewalk and pretend it's a spaceship runway. You, on the other hand, can't stop thinking about lava. The plume you saw earlier is rising higher now, joined by a second, thinner trail. You can't tell how far away they are, but the sky behind them is tinted that ominous orange, a reminder that when Earth has digestive issues, it's everyone's problem. Volcanoes are the planet's pressure valves. When internal forces build up and have nowhere else to go, the magma makes its grand entrance. And after a pause in rotation, well, let's just say there's plenty of pressure to go around. Somewhere a mountain has lost its patience, and it's not alone. Throughout Earth's history, there have been periods of intense volcanic activity. The Siberian traps, the Deccan traps, ancient lava fields the size of countries, which burst forth over thousands of years and likely contributed to mass extinctions. Historians still argue whether those eruptions were triggered by gradual planetary shifts or sudden external disruptions. But if the Earth had ever paused before like it did today, it could explain a lot. You watch the horizon carefully. No explosions, not yet. Just a steady, smoldering sigh. You wonder, is this how it starts? Is the restart of Earth's spin a slow burn of tectonic twitching and volcanic tantrums? Maybe, but maybe not. Because now you're seeing something else. A shift not in lava or land, but in the light. It's subtle. The shadows are moving. When the Earth stopped spinning, Sunlight lingered in strange places. The angle was off. Shadows stretched too far or not at all. You didn't notice at first because you were too busy dodging debris and wondering if flamingos could be used as weather vanes. But now the light feels rhythmic again. Not perfectly, not evenly, but enough that you squint and realize the sun has moved. Just a sliver. It's not the sun, of course, it's you. The earth turning again. Slowly, but unmistakably. You feel it, not as a breeze, not as a tremor, but as a gentle pull, a tiny adjustment in balance. Like the planet is shrugging itself back into motion. You take a few tentative steps. The ground feels stable but different, like walking on a treadmill that's just barely started moving. It makes sense. Angular momentum can't just vanish. The planet didn't eject its spin into space like a yo-yo. That energy was stored, redistributed, waiting to reassert itself. And now it seems Earth is reclaiming its pirouette. One awkward wobble at a time. Somewhere deep in the mantle, forces are grinding. Plates are shifting into new positions. Magma is rising, not to destroy, but to rebalance. You imagine the inner core a smug, spinning marble wrapped in fire, whispering finally as the outer layers fall back into step. It's like a great clock reassembling itself. Tick, tick, tick. Still broken, but ticking. Of course, this doesn't mean everything's fine. Your city is still half flooded. Communication systems are scrambled, and the magnetic field is probably doing interpretive dance somewhere over the Atlantic. But the planet turning again? That's a start. You glance at the moon. It's still watching. Still confused. But maybe, just maybe, it feels the shift too. Maybe it knows the dance isn't over yet. People around you are noticing it, even if they don't quite know what they're sensing. A woman across the street stops, tilts her head and says, "Do you feel that?" You nod. She doesn't ask what that is. No one does. But they all feel it. The imperceptible hum of a planet returning to motion. There's a rhythm again. A beat, however faint. A boy rides by on a bike with a squeaky wheel. And for some reason, the sound is reassuring. A squeak is order. A squeak is gravity and friction in the ground staying where it belongs. You sit on a curb and exhale. If this is how the earth restarts, through pressure and fire and balance, then maybe there's hope. Maybe ecosystems will realign. Maybe the atmosphere will settle. Maybe the magnetic field, drunk and dizzy, will sober up and start deflecting space rays again. It won't be immediate. This isn't a reboot with a progress bar. It's more like a reboot with lava and bees and awkward physics lectures disguised as natural disasters. But the spin is back. It's awkward, uncertain, but it's there. You whisper, "Welcome back," and the wind answers, not with a scream, but a breeze. Gentle, measurable, moving from east to west, which only makes sense if you're moving the other way. And you are, finally. The breeze becomes a low sigh, brushing against your cheek like the earth exhaling for the first time in hours, or maybe eons. You let it pass through your hair, feel it kiss the sweat off your temple, and for once you don't flinch. It's not violent anymore. It's calm, measured, normal. The sky is starting to make sense again. You tilt your head, and the clouds, those chaotic, wind-lashed wanderers from earlier, are now gliding like they remember the script. The sun creeps with a familiar slowness across the horizon, as if catching up to where it left off, and with it the shadows return to their predictable crawl. The light feels softer now, not just because it's late in the day, but because everything's winding down, you included. The earth spins beneath you once more. The sensation isn't dramatic. It's barely perceptible, but your bones, your balance, your blood know it. They've spent your entire life tuned to this rhythm, and now that it's back, your body releases a sigh it didn't know it was holding. Somewhere nearby, a streetlight flickers on. Electricity is returning in pockets. The grid is waking up. Power stations, once scrambled by timing failures and magnetic hiccups, are stabilizing as systems recalibrate. Engineers are probably crying quietly. in bunkers filled with blinking lights and coffee breath. Birdsong begins to scatter through the trees, disorganized at first, then settling into a morning-like melody, even though it's not morning. You smile. Birds don't know what time it is either. Your stomach growls. It's the first bodily reminder you've had all day that hunger is still a thing. You consider whether vending machines work yet, then decide against finding out. You're not quite ready to rejoin society. Not yet. Somewhere, someone's rebooting a phone. Somewhere else, a grandma is hanging clothes that dried hours ago. These little actions, mundane, almost laughable, are evidence that life is reassembling itself in pieces. Historians will try to describe this day. They'll talk about momentum and magnetism and tidal surges. They'll use graphs and equations and maybe a 10-part docuseries with a gravelly narrator and dramatic music. But they won't be able to describe this exact feeling. The quiet victory of rotation returning. The unglamorous relief of the world simply working again. Because even after the panic, even after the chaos of 1 second of planetary pause, it all comes back to this: Earth spins, and we spin with it. You stand. Your legs are steadier now. Your steps firmer. You're walking downhill, retracing your earlier scramble. The air smells of damp leaves and ozone. A dog barks in the distance. A drone buzzes low and steady overhead, still filming, still observing. But everything feels gentler. The wild energy that flung cars, ripped trees, and scrambled birds, it's gone. Replaced by gravity you trust again, by wind that knows its place, by clocks beginning to tick with confidence even if they're still a little late. You glance at your watch. It flickers back to life. The numbers are wrong, but they're ticking, and somehow that's enough. You think about that first moment when it all paused, and how the sky felt like it had forgotten its job. And now you look up and see a sky that has remembered. Not fixed, not perfect, but present. You exhale. For the first time all day, you feel a little sleepy, and maybe that's how you know everything's going to be okay. You climb the steps to your porch or what's left of it. Sit down. Look at the stars beginning to prick through the twilight haze. The moon hangs in its proper place now, no longer drifting awkwardly but gliding like it's forgiven you. And before you nod off, you whisper 2 words. Keep spinning. And the world does. So now, as you rest your head, let the edges of the story blur. Let the drama of the paused earth soften into something quieter, something manageable. The winds have slowed. The oceans have retreated to their shores. The ground no longer shifts beneath your feet. The earth is turning again, ever so gently. You can feel it in the way the shadows move across the floor, in the hush of branches swaying outside your window, in the steady rhythm of your breath, rising, falling, as if echoing the planet's pulse. There's comfort in repetition, in the day following night, in stars that return, in gravity holding your body like a weighted blanket of certainty. Even after a moment of cosmic silence, life finds its way back to rhythm, to rotation, to rest. You're safe now. The birds are asleep in their nests. The satellites, recalibrated, blink softly in orbit. The lava cools beneath a quiet crust. And your heart, which beat a little faster for a while, now slows with the world's returning spin. Breathe in, breathe out. Let the thought of spinning, not too fast, not too slow, rock you gently like a cradle on an invisible turntable. You are part of this planet anchored to its core, moving through space steady and whole. The worst has passed. The second is over. The world has remembered how to turn. And so, you can finally let go. Close your eyes. Sleep sweet dreams.